The alarm screamed through the corridors of the Eternal Defiance as Captain Lee Dae-ho ran toward the bridge. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, making the metal walls look like they were bleeding. His boots hit the floor hard with each step. Behind him, crew members rushed to their battle stations. "Report!" Lee shouted as he reached the bridge. The main screen showed enemy ships approaching fast. They looked like giant metal snakes with weapons glowing on their sides. 12 Valoran raiders, sir," said Lieutenant Commander Bei Jin-soo from his station. "They came out of nowhere. Our scouts never saw them coming." Lee looked at the screen and felt his stomach drop. The Valorans were reptile-like aliens who loved to fight. They had green, scaly skin and yellow eyes that never showed mercy. These raiders were here for one thing: to capture humans and sell them as slaves. "Where is Admiral Park?" Lee asked. "On the flagship New Hope with the civilian ships," Bei replied. "She ordered us to protect the fleet while they escape." Lee nodded. The human exile fleet had been running for 2 years now. Millions of humans lived in old ships, moving from place to place in the dark parts of space. They had no home anymore. The Galactic Council had kicked them out of Earth and all their colonies. The Council said humans were too dangerous to live with other species. "Sir, incoming message from the Valoran leader," said the communications officer. "Put it on screen," Lee ordered. A large Valoran appeared on the main screen. His green skin had dark stripes, and his teeth were sharp like a shark's. When he spoke, his voice was like rocks grinding together. "Human ship, you are surrounded. Give us half your people and we will let the others go. Refuse and we will take them all." Lee stood up straight. His crew looked at him, waiting for his answer. These aliens thought humans were weak because they had been driven from their homes. They were wrong. "This is Captain Lee Dae-ho of the human ship Eternal Defiance. My answer is no. Leave now, or face the consequences." The Valoran laughed, showing all his sharp teeth. "One old human ship against 12 of ours? You are brave but stupid." The screen went dark. Lee turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Show these raiders what humans can do." The Eternal Defiance was the last real warship humanity had. All the others had been destroyed or captured when they lost the war with the Council. This ship was old but strong. Engineer Kim Tae-woo had spent 2 years fixing her with parts from wrecked alien ships. She was not pretty, but she could fight. "Enemy ships closing fast," reported the weapons officer. "They are spreading out to surround us." Lee studied the tactical display. The Valorans were doing what they always did, using their numbers to overwhelm the enemy. But Lee had been fighting aliens for 10 years. He knew their tricks. "Take us into the asteroid field," he ordered. "Sir, that is very dangerous," Bei said. "The rocks are moving fast." "Exactly," Lee smiled. "The Valorans have better ships, but they are not better pilots. Take us in." The Eternal Defiance dove toward a field of spinning asteroids. The Valoran ships followed, but they had to slow down. Their ships were bigger and could not move as well between the rocks. "Now we have a chance," Lee said. "Target the lead ship, fire everything." The human ship's weapons lit up the darkness. Laser beams and missiles shot toward the nearest Valoran raider. The alien ship's shields flashed and died. The next shots tore through its hull and it exploded in a ball of fire. "1 down, 11 to go," Lee said. The battle became a deadly game of hide-and-seek among the asteroids. The Eternal Defiance would appear from behind a large rock, shoot at an enemy ship, then disappear again. The Valorans tried to follow, but they kept crashing into asteroids or each other. Dr. Choi Ye-jin watched the battle from the science station. She had once worked with the Galactic Council, trying to make peace between humans and aliens. Now she helped humans fight them. She knew how aliens thought and what made them afraid. "Captain, the Valorans are getting angry," she said. "When they get angry, they make mistakes." Lee nodded. "Good. Keep them angry." The battle went on for 2 hours. The human ship was faster and smarter, but the alien ships had better weapons and shields. Slowly, the Eternal Defiance was getting damaged. Sparks flew from broken control panels. The lights flickered. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Kim reported from engineering. "I can fix it, but we need time." "Time is something we do not have," Lee said, watching more enemy ships close in. That was when he saw it. a huge asteroid spinning slowly through the field. It was the size of a small moon, and it was hollow inside. Old mining equipment floated around it. "Take us to that big asteroid," Lee ordered. "Sir, there is no way out of there," Bay warned. "Trust me," Lee said. The Eternal Defiance flew into the hollow asteroid just as the Valoran ships surrounded it. The aliens thought they had trapped the human ship. Their leader's voice came over the radio again. "Come out now, and we will kill." "You quickly," Lee smiled. "Kim, are those old mining charges still working?" "Yes, sir, but they are very old, very unstable." "Perfect. Set them to blow in 60 seconds. The mining charges were explosives left by whoever had carved out this asteroid long ago." Kim activated them with a remote signal. Red numbers started counting down. "All ships, this is Eternal Defiance," Lee broadcast to the Valorans. "You wanted to capture humans alive, but dead humans are no use to you." The alien ships pulled back confused. They did not understand what Lee was doing. At 10 seconds, the Eternal Defiance shot out of the asteroid at full speed. 5 seconds. Later, the mining charges exploded. The entire asteroid blew apart in a massive explosion. The shockwave caught 4 Valoran ships and smashed them to pieces. The remaining alien ships fled into deep space. They had lost half their numbers to one human ship. Their leader's voice came over the radio one last time, full of anger and fear. "This is not over, human. The Council will hunt you until you are all dead." Lee sat back in his captain's chair as his crew cheered around him, but he was not happy. During the battle, he had noticed something that worried him. The Valoran weapons were new, newer than anything they should have had. Someone had been giving them advanced technology. Later, Lee met with Admiral Park So-min on her flagship. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been leading the human fleet since they left Earth. "Good work today, Daeho," she said. "But we cannot keep doing this. Our ships are breaking down. Our people are losing hope. Maybe it is time to surrender." Lee shook his head. "Admiral, those raiders had new Council weapons. The aliens who kicked us out are now helping pirates hunt us. They want us to surrender so they can finish what they started." Admiral Park looked out at the stars through the window. Thousands of human ships floated in the darkness, filled with refugees who had no home. "What do you suggest?" she asked. Lee stood up. "Give me volunteers. Let me take the Eternal Defiance and hit back. Show the galaxy that humans will not die quietly." "That is suicide," Admiral Park said. "Maybe," Lee replied. "But it is better than waiting here to die slowly. The galaxy thinks we are beaten. Let us prove them wrong." Admiral Park was quiet for a long time. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, Captain. Choose your crew. But remember, you are not just fighting for revenge. You are fighting for the future of humanity." Lee saluted. "I understand, Admiral. We will make them remember why they feared us in the first place." As Lee walked back to his ship, he looked at the refugee fleet one last time. Millions of humans floated in the darkness waiting for someone to give them hope. The Eternal Defiance would be that hope, even if it meant flying alone into the heart of enemy territory. The war was not over. It was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the battle with the Valoran raiders. The Eternal Defiance now moved through space like a ghost. Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship looked different now, darker, quieter, more dangerous. Engineer Kim Tae-woo had worked magic with salvaged alien technology. The ship's hull was now covered with stolen stealth plating that bent light around it. New engines from a Netheri transport made it faster than before. Weapons from a dozen different species had been mounted wherever they would fit. The ship was a patchwork of alien parts held together by human determination. "Target confirmed, Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Bae Jinsu. "Galactic Council supply convoy, 3 ships. They are carrying food and medical supplies to the Valorans." Lee nodded. For 6 months, they had been striking at Council supply lines. Every convoy they destroyed was food and weapons that would not reach the aliens hunting human refugees. The Council had started calling his ship the Phantom Sword because it appeared without warning, struck hard and vanished before help could arrive. "Dr. Choi, what do you know about these ships?" Lee asked. Dr. Choi Ye-jin looked up from her station. She had been studying the convoy through long-range sensors. The escort ships are crewed by Netheri. They are crystal-based life forms who think very logically. They will follow their programming exactly, which makes them predictable. The Netheri were strange aliens who looked like walking diamond sculptures. They were very smart but had trouble changing their plans when things went wrong. Dr. Choi had learned this during her years working with the Council. "Perfect," Lee said. "Sergeant Oh, are your Marines ready?" Sergeant Major Oh Hyun-woo was a big man with scars on his face from the war. He led the ship's boarding teams, soldiers who would jump from ship to ship during battle. "We are always ready, Captain." Lee studied the tactical display. The convoy was moving through the Kalar system, following the same route they always used. The Council thought this part of space was safe because no human ships had been seen here before. "Take us in," Lee ordered. The Eternal Defiance moved silently through the asteroid field that surrounded the convoy's route. The stealth systems made them invisible to enemy sensors. The alien ships had no idea death was approaching. When they were close enough, Lee gave the signal. "Attack!" The human ship appeared suddenly behind the convoy like a nightmare coming to life. Its weapons opened fire before the aliens even knew it was there. The first escort ship exploded immediately, its crystal hull shattering into 1,000,000 pieces. The second escort ship tried to turn and fight, but Sergeant O and his Marines were already flying toward it in small attack pods. They cut through the hull with laser torches and poured inside, fighting the crystal aliens in the narrow corridors. The supply ship tried to run, but the Eternal Defiance was much faster. Lee brought his ship alongside the fleeing transport and used magnetic grapples to lock onto it. "This is Captain Lee of the Human Resistance," he broadcast to the supply ship. "Surrender now, and we will not harm you." The alien captain's voice came back over the radio. It sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Humans, but you are all dead or in exile. This is impossible." "We are very much alive," Lee replied, "and we are not going anywhere." The aliens surrendered without another shot. Lee's crew quickly transferred the medical supplies and food to their own ship. These supplies would be taken to hidden human bases scattered throughout the galaxy, places where refugees were hiding and trying to survive. But the most important thing they found was information. The supply ship's computers contained shipping schedules, military reports, and communications between Council worlds. Dr. Choi downloaded everything before they left. "Captain," she said, as they reviewed the data later, "this is bigger than we thought. The Council is not just hunting human refugees, they are planning to do the same thing to 3 other species." Lee felt anger rise in his chest. "Which species?" "The Kythera insect people, the Torvan plant-based life forms, and the Mechanical Axiom Collective. The Council calls them potentially dangerous species that need to be controlled." "Just like they said about us," Lee said quietly. Over the next few months, the Eternal Defiance became a legend throughout Council space. They would appear at Netheri crystal farms and broadcast messages exposing Council lies. They would attack Valoran slave ships and free the prisoners. They would strike military bases and steal advanced weapons. But Lee's greatest victory came at the Crystal Gardens of Luminos. This was a Netheri world covered in beautiful crystal forests that generated power for half the Council's space stations. The aliens thought it was impossible to attack because it was so heavily defended. Lee proved them wrong. The attack began with Kim launching dozens of small drones into the planet's atmosphere. The drones looked like space debris, so the defense systems ignored them. But each drone carried a transmitter that would broadcast a signal across the galaxy. While the Eternal Defiance fought the orbital defense platforms, Lee transmitted a message that every species in the galaxy would hear. He revealed the Council's secret arms deals with pirates. He showed proof that the Council was planning to exile or destroy any species that refused to obey them completely. "People of the galaxy," Lee's voice carried to 1,000,000,000 worlds. "The Council tells you that humans are dangerous warmongers who had to be exiled for everyone's safety. But look at what we are fighting for. We are fighting for the right to exist. We are fighting against those who would enslave or destroy anyone who disagrees with them. Today it is humans. Tomorrow it could be you." The message had an immediate effect. On dozens of worlds, smaller species began asking questions about the Council's true intentions. 3 minor species, the Valari traders, the Koan farmers, and the Silthan miners, announced they were withdrawing from Council protection. Back on the Council's capital world, an emergency meeting was taking place. Councillor Vex Thalan, a tall Netheri with blue crystal skin, stood before the Council assembly. "The human resistance is causing chaos throughout our space," Vex Thalan said. "Species are questioning our authority. Pirates are copying human tactics. Our supply lines are being disrupted by a single ship." High Admiral Corvalan, the supreme Valoran military commander, slammed his clawed fist on the table. "One ship. We are being humiliated by one human ship. Give me a fleet, and I will hunt this Lee down personally." "And what happens when your fleet fails?" asked another counselor. "What happens when this human captain defeats your ships just like he has defeated all the others?" Corvalan's yellow eyes glowed with rage. "That will not happen. I will not let it happen." But Vex Thalan was beginning to have doubts. The crystal being had voted for humanity's exile 2 years ago because the humans seemed too aggressive and unpredictable. Now, watching their desperate fight for survival, Vex Thalan wondered if the Council had made a terrible mistake. On distant worlds, other changes were happening. Young aliens who had grown up hearing stories about the mighty human military were now hearing new stories. Tales of human cleverness, human determination, human refusal to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. A group of Kithara rebels sent a coded message to the human resistance: "We stand with you." Some Torvan communities began hiding supplies for human refugees. Even a few Netheri started questioning whether their crystal logic was missing something important about the nature of justice. Meanwhile, the Eternal Defiance continued its campaign of strikes and raids. But Lee knew this could not last forever. His ship was taking damage in every battle. His crew was getting tired. Worse, Council intelligence was learning from each encounter, making their next attack more predictable. "Captain," Dr. Choi said one day as they hid in the rings of a gas giant, "I have been studying the psychological profiles of Council leaders. They are preparing something big. All their communications mention final solution and permanent pacification." Lee looked at the data she showed him. Fleet movements, resource allocations, weapon shipments, all pointing toward a massive military operation. They are going to try to destroy the refugee fleet, he realized. "Yes," Dr. Choi confirmed, "but there is something else. Intelligence reports suggest they have found other human survivors, crews who escaped the initial exile and have been hiding in deep space." Lee felt his heart jump. "How many?" "Unknown. But if these reports are true, we are not alone out here." That night, Lee stood in his quarters looking at a picture of Earth. His homeworld was now occupied by Council forces, turned into a nature preserve where no humans were allowed. But maybe, just maybe, there were still human ships out there, in the darkness waiting for a signal to fight back. He activated his ship's most powerful transmitter and broadcast on an old human military frequency that had not been used since the war. "This is Captain Lee Dae-ho of the Eternal Defiance to any human ships receiving this message. You are not alone. The resistance continues. If you can hear this, we are coming. Hold on just a little longer." Far across the galaxy, in hidden bases and drifting ships, humans heard that message. Some had been hiding for 2 years, others had been captured and had escaped. A few had been living in the deepest parts of space, thinking they were the last humans alive. They began to move, following the signal back to its source. The largest fleet in galactic history moved through space like a metal storm. 200 Council warships spread across the void sector, hunting for human refugees, and the ship they called the Phantom Sword. High Admiral Corvalan stood on the bridge of his flagship destroyer of worlds, watching the tactical display with hungry yellow eyes. "Long-range sensors show no human activity," reported his aide. "The sector appears empty." Corvalan's clawed hands gripped the railing. "They are here. That human captain thinks he is clever, hiding in the dark like a scared animal. But I will find him. I will find them all." The Valorant admiral had been hunting Captain Lee Dae-ho for 8 months. Every failed attack, every destroyed convoy, every escaped human ship was a wound to his pride. The other council species whispered that perhaps Korvalan was not as great, a military leader as he claimed. This hunt had become personal. Deep in the Torvin Nebula, Captain Lee stood on the bridge of the Eternal Defiance watching the massive enemy fleet approach. His ship was hidden in a cloud of gas and dust that blocked most sensors, but he could see the alien ships on his long-range scanners. 200 ships, Lieutenant Commander Bei Jinsu said quietly. "We are very outnumbered, Captain." Lee smiled. "Numbers do not always win battles, Jinsu. Sometimes intelligence and courage matter more." Over the past year, Lee had been secretly rebuilding the human resistance. His broadcasts had reached scattered human survivors across the galaxy. Ships that everyone thought were destroyed had emerged from hiding. Crews that had been living on dead asteroids came forward to join the fight. Engineer Kim Tae-woo had been working with these survivor crews, sharing his knowledge of alien technology. Now dozens of human ships carried the same stealth systems and hybrid weapons as the Eternal Defiance. They were still outnumbered, but they were no longer alone. "Incoming transmission from the Silent Thunder," the communications officer reported. Captain Nam Si-woo appeared on the main screen. His ship had been thought destroyed 2 years ago, but he had been hiding in the nebula's deepest regions, slowly repairing his vessel with parts salvaged from wrecks. "Lee, my sensors show the entire council fleet moving toward your position. Are you ready for this?" "As ready as we will ever be," Lee replied. "Remember the plan. We are not trying to destroy their entire fleet. We just need to show them that humans cannot be easily defeated." Around the nebula, 31 human ships waited in the darkness. They were hidden in asteroid fields, behind gas clouds, and in the shadows of dead planets. Each crew had volunteered for what everyone knew might be a final battle. The council fleet entered the nebula in a standard search pattern. Their ships moved in long lines, scanning every gas cloud and asteroid field. They expected to find a few hiding refugee ships and one badly damaged warship. They found something very different. The first attack came from Captain Moon Jae-huk's ship, Free Earth. His vessel had been modified with Netheri crystal weapons that could punch through any shield. He appeared behind the Council's left flank and destroyed 3 ships before vanishing back into the nebula's interference. "Report!" Korvalan roared as alarms sounded throughout his fleet. "Unknown attacker, sir. The ship vanished before we could identify it." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "It is the human ship. All units, converge on that position." But as the Council ships moved toward where the Free Earth had attacked, 2 more human vessels struck from the opposite direction. Then 3 more attacked from above. Then 5 more hit the rear guard. Dr. Choi Ye-jin had studied every battle the Council had ever fought. She knew they relied on overwhelming firepower and superior technology, but in the nebula, their advanced sensors were nearly blind, and their heavy ships moved slowly through the gas clouds. The humans used hit-and-run tactics, appearing just long enough to fire their weapons before disappearing again. Each human, Captain knew the nebula better than the aliens did because they had been hiding here for months. "Sir, we are receiving multiple attacks from all directions," Korvalan's aide reported. "Our ships cannot coordinate properly in this interference." "How many human ships are there?" the Admiral demanded. "Unknown, sir. They appear and disappear so quickly that we cannot get an accurate count." Korvalan felt rage building in his chest. The humans were making him look like a fool again. "All ships, fire everything into the gas clouds. If we cannot see them, we will destroy their hiding places." The Council ships began firing randomly into the nebula, hoping to hit hidden human vessels. But this played right into Lee's strategy. The alien weapons heated up the gas clouds, creating even more interference. Their own shots were making them more blind. Tech specialist Yoon Mi-ra, working from a hidden base deep in the nebula, had been listening to Council communications. She broke into their command network and began feeding false information to their ships. "Council fleet, this is Admiral Korvalan," she broadcast, copying the Valoran's voice perfectly. "All units retreat to defensive positions. We are taking heavy casualties." Half the Council fleet began pulling back while the other half continued advancing. In the confusion, Human ships struck at the divided enemy formations. The turning point of the battle came when Corvalon himself led a group of 20 ships toward what he thought was Lee's position. He had tracked the Eternal Defiance to a large gas cloud near the nebula's center. Finally, the Admiral growled, "I have you cornered, human." His ships surrounded the gas cloud and began closing in for the kill, but as they entered the cloud they found themselves in a trap. Lee had positioned his ship in the center, but he was not alone. 10 other human vessels waited in the swirling gas, their weapons charged and ready. The alien ships suddenly could not see each other or coordinate their attacks. In the dense gas, their heavy weapons were useless because they might hit their own forces. But the human ships had been practicing this kind of fighting for months. One by one, the Council ships were destroyed or damaged so badly they had to retreat. Corvalon watched his flagship's hull crack under human fire. Sparks flew from control panels around him. "Sir, we must retreat," his aide pleaded. "We have lost half our attack force." Corvalon stared at the tactical display, watching human ships dance through the gas like deadly ghosts. His perfect plan had become a disaster. The humans had not just survived his attack, they had won. "All ships, withdraw from the nebula," he ordered, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. As the surviving Council ships fled, Lee broadcast a message on all frequencies. His voice carried across the galaxy to every world in Council space. "People of the galaxy, you have been told that humans are weak and defeated. You have been told that the Galactic Council's military is invincible. Today, 31 human ships defeated a fleet of 200 Council vessels. We fight not for conquest, but for the right to exist. We fight not for revenge, but for justice. Remember this day and ask yourselves, what other lies has the Council told you?" The message had an immediate effect. On dozens of worlds, protests began against Council rule. 3 more species announced they were leaving the Council's protection. Pirates and rebels throughout the galaxy started using human tactics, making space travel dangerous for Council ships. Most importantly, the Kythera Empire, one of the 3 great powers that had remained neutral in the human conflict, sent a secret message to the Resistance. Empress Zil Andorra, leader of the insect-like Kythera, was interested in meeting with human representatives. Back on the Council capital world, emergency sessions were being held around the clock. Councillor Vexthalen stood before his fellow leaders, his crystal form flickering with worry. "The human resistance is no longer just a military problem," he said. "They have become a symbol of opposition to our authority. Species throughout the galaxy are questioning whether we have the right to decide who lives where. They are terrorists," another councillor shouted. "They attack our ships and steal our supplies." "Do they?" Vexthalen asked quietly. "Or are they fighting for their survival against a government that tried to wipe them out? What would we do if someone exiled all Netheri from our crystal worlds?" The debate that followed split the Council deeper than ever before. Some members wanted to negotiate with the humans, others demanded total war. A few even suggested that maybe the exile had been a mistake. High Admiral Corvalon returned to his home world in disgrace. Half his fleet was destroyed or damaged. The human ghost ship had outfought the greatest military force in the galaxy. Worse, recordings of the battle were spreading throughout Council space, showing everyone that the mighty Council military could be defeated. But Corvalon was not finished. In his private chambers, he made a blood oath in the ancient Valoran tradition. He would personally kill Captain Lee Day-Ho, even if it cost him everything. Meanwhile, in a hidden base built inside a dead asteroid, human survivors celebrated their greatest victory since the exile began. Captain Lee stood before a gathering of ship captains and crew leaders who had thought they would never see their species fight back successfully. "Today we proved something important," Lee told them. "We proved that being outnumbered does not mean being defeated. We proved that courage and intelligence can overcome superior firepower. But most importantly, we proved that humanity will not go quietly into the dark." 2 years had passed since humanity's exile began, and the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Captain Lee Day-Ho stood in the command center of Liberation Base, a massive facility built inside a hollow moon in the Kython system. Around him, humans and aliens worked together at control stations, planning operations against the crumbling Galactic Council. Captain, incoming message from Ambassador Chen Wei-Ling, announced Communications Officer Park So-ra. She is reporting from the Kythera capital. Lee nodded. Chen had been secretly negotiating with species that opposed council rule. Her work had been just as important as any military victory. Put her through. Chen's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Lee could see the crystal spires of the Kythera capital city. The insect-like Kythera had been one of the three great powers that rivaled the council, and their support had been crucial to the growing rebellion. Captain Lee, Chen said with a tired but happy smile, I have news. Empress Zilandora has agreed to make our alliance official. The Kythera Empire will openly support human independence. That is excellent news, Lee replied. What about the other species you have been talking to? 17 minor species have joined our coalition. They call themselves the Free Worlds Alliance. Together with humanity and the Kythera, we now control nearly a third of the galaxy. Lee felt a mix of pride and worry. Success brought new challenges. The human resistance had grown from one damaged ship into a major galactic power. But with that growth came responsibility for millions of lives. Sir, interrupted Intelligence Officer Kim Min-seo, we have urgent news from our spies in Council space. They are planning something called Operation Final Peace. Lee's blood went cold. He had been expecting this. Show me what we know. The FIR. Main display changed to show intelligence reports and captured documents. The picture they painted was terrifying. The Council was preparing to attack Earth itself, not to conquer it, but to destroy it completely as an example to other rebellious species. How long do we have? Lee asked. 6 weeks, maybe less, Kim replied. They are gathering ships from across their remaining territory. Dr. Choi Ye-jin, now the Resistance's chief intelligence analyst, stepped forward. Captain, this is not just about destroying Earth. If they succeed, it will break the spirit of every species fighting for independence. The Free Worlds Alliance will collapse. Lee studied the tactical displays showing Council fleet movements. They were pulling ships from everywhere. Border patrols, garrison forces, even ships guarding their capital worlds. This would be their final throw of the dice. What about our own forces, he asked. General Park Dong-min, the newly appointed commander of the Human Liberation Army, answered. We have 63 ships ready for battle, plus support vessels from our Kythera allies. The Free World species have contributed another 40 ships. Against how many council vessels? Intelligence estimates 300 ships, including their newest dreadnoughts. The numbers were still against them, but not as badly as before. More importantly, the human fleet was no longer alone. They had allies, bases, supply lines, and the support of billions of beings across the galaxy. There is something else, General Park continued. Captain Moon Jae-hyuk reports that his deep space scouts have found something unexpected near Earth. What kind of something? Lee asked. Automated defense platforms, hundreds of them, hidden in the asteroid belt around Earth. They appear to be human-built, but with technology we have never seen before. Lee felt his heart jump. Who could have built them? We think it might be survivors from the original evacuation, Park replied. People who stayed behind to prepare Earth's defenses. The idea that humans might still be near Earth, that his homeworld might not be completely defenseless, filled Lee with new determination. But first, they had to deal with a more immediate crisis. Sir, Kim called out. Emergency transmission from Kepler Station. Kepler Station was a massive orbital facility that the Council used as a research base. Intelligence reports suggested they were holding human prisoners there for medical experiments. Lee had been planning to attack it for months. What is happening there? Unknown, sir, the transmission is badly scrambled. All I can make out is prisoners and help us. Lee made his decision instantly. Prep the fleet, we are going to Kepler Station now. Sir, it is heavily defended, General Park warned. We will need all our ships for the battle at Earth. If there are human prisoners there, we cannot leave them, Lee said firmly. Besides, Kepler Station contains Council research data that could help us understand their new weapons. 3 hours later, 40 human ships dropped out of hyperspace around Kepler Station. The massive facility was the size of a small city, with docking bays for hundreds of ships and research laboratories that could house thousands of scientists. But something was wrong. The station's defenses were not responding to the human attack. Its fighters stayed in their bays. Its weapon platforms remained silent. "This feels like a trap," Lieutenant Commander Bei Jinsu said nervously. "Maybe," Lee replied. "Or maybe someone inside is helping us. Take us in carefully." The Eternal Defiance approached the station's main docking bay. As they got closer, the bay doors opened by themselves. Inside, Lee could see emergency lights flashing red, but no sign of defenders. "Sergeant O, take your Marines and secure the docking bay," Lee ordered. "I am coming with you." "Sir, you should stay on the ship," O protested. "Not this time," Lee said. "If there are human prisoners in there, they need to see that we came for them." The boarding party moved through Kepler Station's corridors carefully. The facility was eerily quiet. Emergency lights cast long shadows on the walls. Most of the alien crew seemed to have fled. They found the first group of prisoners in Laboratory Section C. 50 humans in prison uniforms, thin and weak from months of captivity. When they saw Lee and his Marines, some began to cry. Others cheered weakly. "Who is in charge here?" Lee asked. A woman with gray hair and a doctor's coat stepped forward. "I am Dr. Liu Wei-Ming. We have been held here for 18 months. They have been studying us." Lee felt rage building in his chest. "How many prisoners are there?" "Nearly 800 humans across all the laboratory sections. But there is something else you need to know. The Council scientists were not just studying us. They were trying to find ways to make us weaker, more controllable. They wanted to create a virus that would affect only humans. Did they succeed? No. Human biology is too complex, but their research data is still in the main computers." Lee's communications officer called through his radio. "Captain, we have secured the entire station. The alien crew evacuated 3 hours ago, just before we arrived." They knew we were coming, Lee realized. This was not a rescue. It was a gift. Dr. Choi's voice came over the radio from the Eternal Defiance. "Captain, I am reading massive amounts of data being transmitted from the station's computers. Someone is sending us everything. Research files, military plans, communication codes." "Who?" "Unknown. The transmission is coming from the station's central computer core, but there are no life signs in that section." As Lee's team moved toward the computer core, they found more evidence of the Council's crimes. Laboratories where humans had been subjected to painful experiments. Files describing plans to use human prisoners as slave labor. Documents outlining the final solution for dealing with resistant species. In the computer core, they found something unexpected. A holographic message waiting for them, activated by their presence. The image that appeared was of a tall, crystalline being, a Netheri counselor. "If you are seeing this message, then you are the human resistance forces," the hologram said. "I am Counselor Vex Thalan. I have decided that the Council's treatment of your species is morally wrong." Lee stared at the image in surprise. A Council member was helping them? The hologram continued. "I have provided you with all research data from this facility, as well as intelligence about Council military plans. I cannot stop the attack on your home world, but I can give you the information you need to defend it." "Why?" Lee asked, even though he knew the hologram could not hear him. As if answering his question, the Netheri's image spoke again. "My people believe in logic and justice. There is no logic in genocide. There is no justice in exile. The Council has become the very thing we once fought against, a tyrannical empire that destroys those who refuse to obey." The message ended, but the data transfer continued. Military codes, ship specifications, battle plans, everything the Resistance needed to fight the Council's final attack. Dr. Liu approached Lee as they prepared to leave the station. "Captain, there is something else. The research here was not just about making humans weaker. They were also studying why humans fight so hard when other species give up." "What did they find?" "They found that humans have something most other species lack: the ability to hope when hope seems impossible. Other species make logical decisions based on probability of success. Humans fight for what is right, even when winning seems hopeless. Lee nodded. It made sense. Throughout their exile, humans had kept fighting when any logical species would have surrendered or scattered. As the human fleet left Kepler Station with their rescued prisoners, Lee broadcast a message to the galaxy. But this time, he did not just speak to other humans. He spoke to every species on every. The largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Defiance, watching through the main screen as Earth grew larger ahead of them. His homeworld looked exactly as he remembered it: blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. But now it was surrounded by hundreds of mysterious defense platforms that gleamed like silver stars in the sunlight. "Fleet status report," Lee ordered. "All human ships are in position," reported Communications Officer Park So-ra. "The Kithara battle fleet has taken the left flank. Free World's alliance ships are covering our rear." Lee nodded, studying the tactical display. They had brought every ship they could gather: 120 human vessels, 80 Kithara warships, and 60 ships from the allied species. Against them, the Galactic Council had assembled 300 ships, including their newest and most powerful dreadnoughts. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Council flagship," Park announced. "Put it on screen." Supreme Counselor Rex Vorian appeared on the display. The alien leader looked like a giant metal spider with glowing red eyes. His species, the Makani, had joined the Council only 50 years ago but had quickly become its most ruthless members. "Human Captain," Rex Vorian said in a voice like grinding gears, "you have caused enough chaos. Surrender now, and we will. Make your deaths quick." Lee stood up straight, facing the alien leader. "This is Captain Lee Dae-ho of the Human Liberation Fleet. We are here to reclaim our homeworld. You are the ones who should surrender." The mechanical being's red eyes flashed brighter. "Your homeworld? This planet belongs to the Council now. It has been cleansed of human contamination and turned into a nature preserve. No humans will ever set foot on it again." "We shall see about that," Lee replied calmly. "Earth is our home. We were born there, we lived there, and we will return there." Rex Vorian's image disappeared, and immediately the Council fleet began to advance. 300 ships moved toward Earth like a metal storm, their weapons charging and shields glowing. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," came the voice of Lee's sister over the fleet communication system. President Lee Soo-jin had appointed their old friend Park Dong-min as overall fleet commander. But everyone knew that this battle would be won or lost by the individual ship captains who had learned to fight against impossible odds. "Remember what we are fighting for," Admiral Park continued. "Not just Earth, but the right of all species to live free from tyranny. Today we show the galaxy what happens when free people fight for their homes." The battle began with long-range missile exchanges as the two fleets closed distance. The Council ships had better shields and more powerful weapons, but the human and allied ships were faster and more maneuverable. Lee watched as Captain Nam Si-woo's silent thunder darted between enemy dreadnoughts, striking at their weak points, before disappearing behind debris fields. "Sir, something is happening with the defense platforms around Earth," reported Lieutenant Commander Bae Jin-soo. Lee looked at his sensors in amazement. The mysterious platforms were activating, rising, from their hiding places in asteroid fields and behind Earth's moon. As they powered up, their weapons systems became visible. Technology that looked human but was far more advanced than anything the Resistance had built. "Incoming transmission from Earth," Park announced. "It is coming from the planet's surface." New face appeared on Lee's screen, an elderly Korean woman with silver hair and kind eyes. "This is Dr. Song Hye-jin, speaking for the Earth Defense Coalition. Welcome home, Captain Lee." Lee felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Dr. Song, we thought everyone evacuated when the Council took over." "Not everyone," she replied with a smile. 5,000 of us stayed behind to prepare for your return. We have spent 2 years building defenses and waiting for this moment." The defense platforms, built using technology we developed while you were fighting in space. We learned much from studying captured Council equipment, but more importantly, we learned from studying the reports of your battles. Human adaptability, human creativity, human refusal to give up. These became the foundation of our defense systems. Around Earth, the ancient defense platforms opened fire. Their weapons were unlike anything seen before. Beams of pure energy that could punch through the strongest shields, guided missiles that could track targets through hyperspace, force fields that could redirect enemy attacks back at their source, the Council fleet, which had been advancing confidently toward what they thought was a defenseless world, suddenly found themselves under attack from 600 defense platforms. Ships that had seemed invincible began to explode or flee in panic. But Supreme Counselor Rexvorian was not finished. His flagship, a massive dreadnought called Galaxy's End, pushed through the defense platform fire toward Earth's surface. If we cannot have this world, his voice boomed across all frequencies, then no one will have it. I will crack this planet open like an egg. Lee realized what the alien leader planned to do. He is going to crash his ship into Earth. The impact will destroy everything. Not if I can help it, Lee said grimly. All power to engines. Take us on an intercept course. Sir, his ship is 10 times larger than ours, Bay warned. Size is not everything, Lee replied, remembering the lessons learned in 2 years of fighting impossible odds. The Eternal Defiance accelerated toward the massive Council flagship. Around them, the battle raged as human, Kythera, and free worlds. Ships fought desperately against the remaining Council forces, but Lee's attention was focused on the giant dreadnought plunging toward Earth. At the last moment, the Eternal Defiance collided with the Council flagship, not head-on, which would have destroyed both ships but at an angle that sent the larger vessel spinning off course. Rexvorian's ship missed Earth and crashed into the Moon instead, creating a crater that could be seen from the planet's surface. But the collision had badly damaged Lee's ship. Emergency lights flashed throughout the corridors. Sparks flew from control panels. The main engines were offline. Captain, we are losing life support, reported engineer Kim Tae-woo. Hull breaches on 7 decks. Through the chaos, Lee heard a familiar voice on the communication system. It was High Admiral Corvalin, the Valoran commander who had been hunting him since the beginning. Lee, this is not over, human. Even if you win today, I will hunt you for the rest of your life. Lee looked at his tactical display and saw Corvalin's ship approaching, its weapons charging for a final attack. But before the Valoran admiral could fire, 3 ships moved to intercept him. A human destroyer, a Kythera cruiser, and a vessel from the Torvan plant people. The 3 allied ships opened fire simultaneously. Corvalin's vessel, damaged from the earlier battle, could not withstand the combined attack. It exploded in a ball of fire, ending the personal war between the 2 commanders. Across the battlefield, the tide was turning. Council ships were surrendering or fleeing. The defense platforms around Earth had proven too strong for their remaining forces to overcome. Most importantly, ships from several Council species had begun switching sides, their crews tired of fighting a war they no longer believed in. Ambassador Chen Weiling's voice came over the fleet communication system from her diplomatic ship. All Council vessels, this is Ambassador Chen of the Free Worlds Alliance. Lay down your weapons and you will be treated with honor. Continue fighting, and you will share the fate of your leaders. One by one, the surviving Council ships stopped. White flags appeared on their hulls, the universal symbol of surrender. Lee slumped back in his captain's chair, exhaustion washing over him. 2.5 years of constant fighting had finally ended. Earth was free. Sir, incoming transmission from the planet, Park announced. President Lee Soo-jin appeared on screen, speaking from what looked like the rebuilt capital city. Lee's sister had tears in her eyes. Dae-ho, permission to come home? Lee smiled for the first time in years. Permission granted, Madam President. The victory celebration lasted for 3 days. Ships from dozens of species filled Earth's orbit. On the planet's surface, humans who had hidden for 2 years emerged to see the sky filled with vessels carrying their brothers and sisters home from exile. But for Lee, The most important moment came when he stood in a garden in Seoul, the city where he had grown up. The trees were exactly as he remembered them. The flowers bloomed in the same colors. Earth had survived the council's occupation and was ready to welcome its children home. Dr. Choi Ye-jin found him there, looking up at the stars where ships from the new Galactic Federation were already beginning to patrol together. "What are you thinking about, Captain?" she asked. "About the future," Lee replied. "The council is finished, but that does not mean our work is done. We have to build something better, a galaxy where all species can live together as equals. The Federation Council has offered you a position as their first military commander," Dr. Choi said. "You could write the rules for how this new galaxy will defend itself." Lee considered this. The old Galactic Council had used its military to oppress and control other species. The new Federation would need to be different, strong enough to protect the weak but never becoming the tyrant itself. "I will take the position," he decided, "but not as a conqueror or ruler, as a protector." 6 months later, Lee stood on the observation deck.